Hey guys, my name's Troy Hoffman. I'm the founder of Simpleris and the founder of Balancegenics and an executive mentor. What we do every week here is we're creating these things called Fireside Chats. We basically transform this entire space into a studio every week. 4, 3. In the house today we've got Walt Tomolina. Today in the studio we have Ty Cannon. He's also one of the top anti-aging doctors in the country and probably even in the world. And what I want you to see is the opportunity to be exposed to all these different entrepreneurs, all these different people that can share their wisdom and insights, because one idea can change your life today.
They want to be part of the outcome, but they don't necessarily want to be part of the process because it's scary. And if they hear you say collision and they're afraid of conflict, I got to go to the restroom. I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. Yes, they've done that.
I realized there's over 27 different hormones and hormone metabolites that exert a tremendous effect on your body, your mind, your performance, and whether you live or die.
You can actually apply something to that.
Oh, absolutely.
If you make decisions based on a spreadsheet, all you have to do is get rid of these people and do this.
That's why I love the last story you told about how you changed your culture, when it became more transparent. Your best quote-unquote producer became your bottom producer, quote-unquote, became your best producer.
People see how you care for people in the entire lifespan of their employment status with you, right? And I've had people that have come in and left,
I love this.
and then they came back,
Yeah.
right? We call them boomerang employees. We have boomerang clients.
I love that
right?
term. One new concept, one new thing you can take back to your workplace, one new thing you can take back to your company, one new thing you can take back to your family to change the way you think and see and change everything about what you're doing and the actions you're going to take. All right, folks, welcome back to the Fireside Chats. Today we have the man, the myth, the legend, The Power of Company Culture by Chris Dyer in the house. This is his latest book he's launched in the last year, and he's got a whole consulting company around this. Plus, he's actually got a huge company behind him. He's not a guy that actually just wrote a book. He's the guy that actually lived it and then wrote the book, literally. I mean, and a lot of times now, we were just talking about this, a lot of people are just kind of like full of BS or learning something and then going to teach it without actually having lived it and fully led it themselves. And so, Chris, I'm kind of stoked, actually. It's actually our first date, technically, right? It's our first date. It's our first date here. And we just got introduced by Gus Van Dender, who was part of this other men's group. And Gus and I just shot a show earlier, and now then they just did a whole interview. And we had to watch this whole interview just now, and some of the content was absolutely amazing. And he's because he's lived this, the knowledge, the wisdom just drips out of his mouth. And it's like, and I'm so excited for you guys today to meet this guy now, because to find legit people in business and learn from them, other entrepreneurs that have actually done something, they're actually living it, they're actually going through the pain, they've been in the pits and now they're living in the palace. It's a cool experience because they've done something, they've learned something, they've grown to become the person that can handle all this at one point in their lives. And this is why we do this, why we share the show, so we can rapidly transform your life by sharing true nuggets and hearing what other people actually went through to give you the courage, to give you the inspiration, to encourage you to live a better life, to encourage you to do better and have the skill sets and the tool sets and the mindsets to really achieve that which you want in your life. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me here.
It's awesome.
Well, gratitude for having me on the show. Really appreciate it.
So how was the last episode with Gus?
Gus was fantastic.
Yeah.
So Gus and I seem to have this ability to start talking.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, it's like, they're like, oh, you're done. You know, him and I have been on the phone for an hour, and it's like, oh, I have another call I have to get on, right? It's just so easy to talk to him. So
Gus is articulate. I mean, he's just so good. He's so Gus is the mind, the technician that puts all the pieces. He's super brilliant in that. So I want to talk about real quick today and share how did you get this? So he's got this whole consulting company going, right? Now, before all this, how in the world did you go from a kid growing up here at Cal State Fullerton to building this huge company with, he's got 3,000, to be very clear, independent contractors, he likes to say, 30 full-time employees, but the 3,000 independent are pretty much full-time employees, essentially, if you want to look at it like that. And they're finding information. And so how did you get to build this whole beast of a company?
Yeah, I think
and I don't even know where to start with that.
The simple answer is by saying yes.
Yes.
right? Is
So what was that?
Yeah, so you start working at one company. So when I graduated from Cal State Fullerton, I went and worked at a hotel in West Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
And that was just because they wanted someone who had a background they could kind of put into security, but they
Yeah.
didn't want a cop, and they didn't want, they knew what they didn't want, and so they ended up with some young kid out of college, and they're like, hey, you want to come run the security department? And I went, okay. I have no idea what I'm doing or how to do it, so I went
Yeah.
and figured it out, right? I
That's
just said
pretty
yes.
awesome.
And in a very short period of time, I went from that to become running all of their operations. Because again,
Wow.
I just kept saying yes to things.
Yeah.
And learning and growing and taking on more and more responsibility. And that led me to another company where I learned the background check business. And
Yeah.
then September 11th happened, and I realized I was really unhappy. That moment, that horrible moment in time, made me realize that I had given up on some of my goals to have my own company. So I had been learning from everyone, but I was really unhappy at that current company I was at. And it was like, oh, life just told me, knock it off, Chris. It's time to go back to what you're really passionate about, which is to have my own company. Because I've had my lemonade stands and newspaper businesses. Like I've been an entrepreneur since like the moment I realized I could take this quarter and go buy a bunch of candy, right? That I could take money and go get the things that I wanted.
Yeah.
And so very early on, I was entrepreneurial.
That's awesome.
And so I got back to that.
So September 11th occurred,
Right.
2001. From that point, when did you actually launch the first company?
November 1st.
November 1st, literally.
Right.
So how you're
just under 2 months I had.
So you're 24, I'm guessing.
At that
23?
time, it was something like that, yeah.
That's how old are you
Pretty
now?
young. So I'm 43 now.
We're the same exact
Yeah,
age,
yeah,
and I
okay, yeah.
figured that. And so, yeah, I was actually back in college. I actually bankrupted 2 companies when I was like, by the time I was 24. So 24 to 26 is when I was in college, about 24, 25. When I went
Right.
back to college, I thought maybe I should get some education and not screw my life up. That was my thought, to go back to college.
Right.
That was it.
That was a
I'd
good
already
idea.
bankrupted 2 companies. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd be like, I better learn something,
Right.
So I remember that very clearly. So November of that year, wow, you launched at 25, and what happened? Like you said, you went to somebody and said, "I'm going to do background checks for you," or
Well, I
what
was
this
I was too
process?
stupid to know that I shouldn't start a business in the middle of a recession right after the largest terrorist
Yeah.
attack.
Worst time in history. Like,
First
what-
time in history to start a business, and I
You
did.
can't fly anywhere.
Right.
You,
So,
like, I mean-
what was good back then is that people didn't know, not everyone was running background checks, and actually that event really woke people up to this idea that they need to know more about the people who are working for them. So
Yeah.
it turned out to be a way we could leverage it and good for us. So I built the business, didn't know that, any better.
So you started by yourself, and who was your first customers? How did you find the
Yeah,
information?
my first customers
Like-
were people I had relationships with at my previous company that heard I was starting a new one, and they came over.
Wow.
I came up with the idea of faxing. So back then, everyone used to put an advertisement in the newspaper for a job, and they would put the fax number where you'd send your resume. So I said, well, why don't we just get all those fax numbers and send them an advertisement?
So you're the guy, all the class action lawsuits
Right.
about the faxing came
Right.
through.
So-
I used to process those
Yeah.
type of cases. They're all gone now.
They're all gone now.
All the faxing cases, but they
Right.
all, you guys like used to get sued.
Right, used
I'm
to
like,
fax.
who are these guys?
Right,
Now I'm
so-
meeting you.
So I
That's
learned
awesome.
early on that
Brilliant.
that it was great.
Great marketing.
It was great marketing.
They went right to the people.
And then people got upset. Some people got upset about it.
Yeah.
And so then you realize you could go around to Canada. If you sent them from Canada back in, then I wasn't violating the law. Right? I got smart. And
That's
then
awesome.
that loophole got closed. Right? And then I couldn't do it anymore.
That's
but
awesome.
For the first year or two, I grew
Yeah.
from $0 to $1 million by sending faxes to people.
That's crazy, man.
It was
That's
just
so
being
amazing.
it was just being nimble, trying to find
So how many staff did you need when you were at $1 million to run this whole thing? Like, where were you at?
5 or 6 people.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's so rad.
it wasn't a lot, Plus the independent contractors, but I only had a small core team.
Yeah.
And that just kind of grew over time.
Chris, so now you're 25, now you're 26 a year later, and you're at running $1 million. And then like, what happened next? I mean, like, where were you at when you were 30? Like, what was
Yeah.
going on? Like, were you married then? Were you single?
Yeah,
Like, how
so-
did you handle like?
So got married around that time, and then what happened was we were just flying, right?
You're blowing up.
We're
This sounds
blowing
like.
up, and then everything changed when we couldn't send faxes anymore.
Oh.
And it was like, okay, so what do we do now? Well, we go get salespeople. We had to change our whole model, and we
How
were,
badly did it hit you when that
Yeah, it
happened?
was real
Like,
clunky. It took us to get from
Really?
from 1 to 2 took us a long time.
Really? How
Because we
long?
had to go about 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years, something.
Catch this, guys. So sometimes immediate success is amazing, but sometimes going to the next level and doubling the business,
It's hard.
It's really hard at different times. Like,
Right.
it's really challenging. So what did you learn during that 3-4 year period of time where you're trying to figure out how to grow from 1 to 2 million?
Yeah, well, there were a lot of things I learned. One of the things I learned was that the people that are with you now may not be the people you need tomorrow.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And so you have to really think
It's
about.
tough.
It's tough because those people that came in with you early on that were like, hey, I want to be in your business and I want to give you all my energy. And you're like, fantastic, you're the best. And then you get to a certain point of sophistication and it changes and you're like, oh, you don't have the abilities I need anymore.
Yeah.
And so I had to figure out what I was going to do with those people. I ultimately would help them find their next job. I didn't fire them. It's something about me. I just can't like walk in and say, well, you did a fantastic job for us, but you're not the person anymore. Goodbye.
So I learned the hard way. We hired an HR company to help and outside consultants.
Right.
But they were very harsh.
Yeah.
And they wanted us to come in and fire people, and they did that to us. And it just killed our energy. It just killed our culture. Like even right after that, we let go of some people that weren't like the best, but like just the finances.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like our good people left, and it just destroyed us for many years. Actually, the energy, the momentum, just killed it because somebody just did a knee-jerk reaction instead of just let's just focus even more, hold the team together, and then let go of only those that really truly aren't producing.
Right.
And it was like it was tough for me.
If you make decisions based on a spreadsheet. And a lot of times some consultants
That's what
will come
a lot
in,
of consultants do.
and it's a spreadsheet. Just all you have to do is get rid of these people and do this, and it doesn't deal anything with the culture stuff.
That's why I love the last story you told about how you changed your culture when it became more transparent. Your best quote unquote producer became your bottom producer. Your bottom producer, quote unquote, became your best producer. When you really started looking at the right metrics, looking at the right processes, having this open culture you had, like it was awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love that. Keep going.
So if you really look at it the right way, right? And so that lesson, I think if we can finish the point, was we had to figure out how we were going to help those people that were no longer the right people for us. And if organizations can figure that out, it's huge because people see how you care for people in the entire lifespan of their employment status with you, right? And I've had people that have come in and left.
Oh, I love this. Keep going.
And then they came back.
Yeah.
Right? We call them boomerang employees. We have boomerang clients.
I love that term. Like we've had that now.
They come back. And sometimes they came back because they realized the grass wasn't green on the other side.
Yeah.
Sometimes they came back because they went off and they got better and they learned something new and they got a new degree and they got new experience and now they're the new person when they come back.
Correct.
Right? And that's okay. So, but how we left it with them allowed them to come back. That we didn't walk in and say, well, you're the wrong person today.
So did you technically do layoff, or did you do a firing, or did you just said?
I went in with some of these people and said, listen, here's where we're at. This is what I need this position to do. You have to become this person. And had a real conversation with them over several days or weeks.
Yeah.
And most of them said, I can't be that person.
Correct.
Right? And so then we said, that's okay.
This what makes you a great leader. The fact you can even have these conversations and be that direct and be that honest and be that like truthful and direct is amazing. It just says so much about who you are as a person. It's amazing. So keep going.
So then we went back and we helped them find their next job.
Wow.
Sometimes for more money than they were making with us, sometimes a better title. But we did not get rid of them until we helped them find their next thing. So
when you did that, did you hire, did you have someone assigned that was part of your recruiting team? Or internal consultant or outside HR people that helped them, or
early on when we were small enough, I was doing it with them. I was working as like a one-on-one coach with them. But what's their next job going to be like?
Yeah.
And they were continuing to do the job they were doing for us, but we were spending 10% of their day helping them find the next thing.
So how are you dealing mentally with all this as things are going? Like, how'd you hold it together? How'd you hold a relationship together?
Yeah.
Marriage, kids, like all of this stuff. Like how was?
I don't remember. I don't know. It's a bit of there was a lot going on. I just remember being on all the time.
Yeah.
I don't live my life like, oh, it's a Monday. Today we start work. And oh, it's Friday. That means work is over.
No, it doesn't exist in our world.
It doesn't exist.
An entrepreneur, as a real leader, a real entrepreneur, you're 7 days a week on. Right. You're just on.
But what I learned early on, I used to just be on all the time. And if I wasn't on, I felt guilty about it. And over time, what I learned was I need to be on when I want to be on, whenever that time of the day is, whatever day of the week that is.
Yeah.
Here we are on a Sunday, I'm doing a podcast, right?
Yeah.
I'm not like, oh, it's Sunday, I can't work today, right? This is time. But then on a Monday at 3 o'clock, if I got to go do something for personal level and I got to get away or I got to go read a book, then I can do that.
Yeah.
And it's a mindset thing. Now, for some people, they go to their jobs. They drive to their job Monday morning, and they drive out of it on Friday afternoon.
And that's it.
And that I understand that, right? But for leaders, for entrepreneurs, you have to get rid of the guilt when you can't work.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay for when your brain is ready, when your life is ready, everything in your life is ready for you to go do your best work, then you got to go do it.
Yeah.
Whatever
100%.
day and time that is,
Yeah.
right?
That's awesome. So let me ask you this now, ready? So with the company the size it's at and where you're at, what is your life schedule now? Like your Monday through Sunday, morning routine all the way through the day, night routine, like what does this world look like for you now? Because you've encapsulated leadership. You've learned a lot. You've bumped your head a bunch. You've learned a lot. It speaks volumes about your relationship with your son. Like that says volumes about who you are, the way you interact, and just your being and everything. So you've got some things going for you. Like what is this now that your life schedule looks like, and how do you maintain running the company in your life and keeping it all going?
It's a little chaotic. I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, if anyone who would sit, any entrepreneur, any CEO would tell you, "Oh, I got it all figured out." It's
No.
all
It's constantly evolving,
full of
constantly changing. But
we do the
just
best
where
we
we're
can.
at now.
We do the best we can with what's happening. So my organization's running at a pretty good pace right now. So I feel like I'm taking a lot on from Daniel Pink's work. He has a great book called When.
Yeah, I love that book, When.
And so for me, I run the traditional pattern, which is in the morning I should do my task work. So I make my lists, I do my tasks, right? I do all that stuff in the morning the best I can, and I block out. I don't have my creative meetings. I don't have anything that's creative or talking with my staff that time. I promised you this report. I got to review this Excel sheet. I got to, whatever. That stuff's in the morning.
How many hours do you block for tasks?
It's on average 3 to 4.
Got it.
Right, on average, and that can change.
Yeah.
And then having lunch. I think lunch is super important time. People like to burn through the lunches. I like to make sure I go and pull myself out of my environment and try to do something else that's different. Even if, because I'm 100% remote, even if it's go sit on the couch and watch a 30-minute Star Trek, right, or something, right? Just pull yourself out, whatever you gotta do, or go read a book or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I go back, and now it's all creative time.
Wow.
So the afternoon is creative time. It's having these deep conversations. It's thinking about our next marketing move. It's, thinking strategically, all this kind of stuff. And then that 3 or 4 o'clock time hits. And for most people, not all, if you read the book, there's different patterns for people. Most people, 3 or 4 o'clock, you hit a wall, right?
Nap time.
And everyone
I call it nap meditation.
Right, and so everyone wants to push through it. You can't push through it.
No,
you
break
got to
time.
meditate. You got to take a break.
That's what I do. I mean, literally.
I'm fortunate that my son gets out of school at 3:30 every
Yeah.
day, so I go pick him up, right?
That's
And then I
awesome.
break. It's another break, and then I'll come back and I'll notice I have a hard time getting started again,
Yeah.
and that's okay, because then at 7, 8, 9 o'clock sometimes I'm back on and I'm working again.
Well, it's
right?
crazy. Like that's when we do like our creative meetings. Like we'll start like Emily's here and Aaron and Daniela, and we'll like meet and we'll work on all these projects, or meet with other entrepreneurs at night. Like literally, we'll have tons of food that's just like sitting in the fridge here or there, and we'll eat, and we'll just whiteboard, and we'll be working on projects and planning till like 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Right.
I go to bed at 12, get up at 6. Like I'm just like energized again, or I'll be done at 10. I'll go for a walk and then sit in the sauna, make sure I put myself to sleep so I'm not wasting the time, like, and these habits, they just start stacking, and these like when, it's amazing.
Yeah.
The meditation was a breakthrough though. That break time,
Yeah.
like I used to try to push through and guzzle coffee and slam Red Bulls and like,
doesn't work.
no, did not work for me. So now I put on the little Calm, like my little app, little Calm or Muse app or whichever one. And I lay down, I set the alarm for 30 minutes. I pound coffee, like they say, pound the big giant cup of coffee. Literally started doing the box breathing, the Mark Divine box breathing. And within 10 minutes, I think I'm breathing and falling asleep. I get about a 20-minute nap, 10 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes. I wake up and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm ready to go.
That's amazing.
It's like a second part of my day. So I can have like a full day and another full part of the day, like twice a day. And it's like, the productivity just went through the roof.
And I find most people either feel guilty about doing that kind of thing, that, geez, I'm not being productive for that 30 minutes, and they're ultimately not being as productive as they could be for the whole day.
100%.
Or they just don't know, right? They're in this like box that, hey, I have to do this work from X time to Y time. And so,
the 9 to 5 mentality.
Right.
Like
And-
I got to work from 9 to 5 and then I can go home and, well, then you end up wasting 7, 8, 9 hours a night. So I was screwing around the house, watching TV, Netflix. And that was like a sedation method. I was doing like hardcore. I was like, okay, I am like people give up like smoking and drinking, and like I had to like, okay, I'm gonna focus on getting off Netflix next.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because there was like Amazon or Netflix. So yeah, I mean, I'd waste. I'm like, how in the world did I just waste 3 hours of my life? Like,
Right.
I just like 4 nights in a row trying to get through this, whatever, Lorena Del Sur, like, or whatever show I get sucked into. And I was like, wow, I almost wasted a full work week almost.
Right.
Like, I mean, like, I've done that in the past, right? Like, get hooked on a show and like on Saturday and Sunday watching like 4 hours. I was like, I end up all the time. I'm like, this is 20 hours of TV.
I mean, it's cool if you have a couple of shows, things you're passionate about, you like, that's great. But if you use it as an escape.
I was using it as escape.
Right.
I was
And that's the
fried,
difference.
burnout. Like, I was like, screw this.
I had one of my really close friends ask me, he's like, how do you do as many things as you do? And I go, imagine if you didn't watch TV for a week, how much you could get done.
It's crazy.
And he wasn't happy. He was like, oh, like he didn't want to have to think
No.
about it. But if you remove some of the distractions, the things in your life, you can get so much more done.
Yes.
If you want to.
Correct.
Right? It's a matter if you want to do it, you can.
Well, that's the question. What do you want? And I've got this great guy coming in today I was telling you about earlier. I think I would love for you to meet Robert D. McDonald. And I get to spend time with him. He's 73 years old. He's an elite coach, an elite men's coach and life transformational person. But he ran men's groups in the 70s. He's one of the original founders of like NLP and worked with Milton Erickson and worked with all these top guys and during the development of NLP. And then he's been a coach and a guide for like 20, 30, 40, 50 years now. I mean, like since he was early 20s, so 50 years really. And he's always like, what do you want, Troy? Like, what do you really want? Like, it doesn't matter what other people think. He's like, what do you want? Like, your mind's a taxi cab driver. It'll take you exactly where you want to go. And you get to choose. Do you want chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry ice cream? Like, what do you like? And like, right now the fact we get to shoot here, we get the boats and the water, 'cause I like water. Yeah. Other people love mountains. Other people love fields and grass. And other people have islands and coral.
It's being intentional though,
yeah,
right?
like being intentional about what do you really like. And it took me a long time to say, man, what do I really want? Like, I love this. Like, I get to meet really amazing people, learn your secrets, you know, like what made you who you are, Chris, like, and I get to basically be encouraged by you, and we get to encourage other people.
Right.
So this is me. This is what I love doing, and I build my life around this so I can have meetings and that's why I like Daniel Pink's word, like when do I do what I like to do, or when do I like to do the things that are feeding my soul, my spirit. I'm like energizing and unlocking things. Like I just recently unlocked walking. I am super passionate about walking right now. I didn't think walking was going to be such a big deal in my life. I just commit to walking 2 miles a day, and it's almost like a peripatetic, like Aristotle used to go for walks and teach, so I go for walks and do phone calls. I go for walks and do emailing, or walks to listen to my books on tape, or even walks when I'm doing like talks.
You still have a tape? You have a Walkman?
Yeah, I still say books, tapes, and functions, by the way. And I'm like, I'm definitely dating myself. Like, we're at another meeting yesterday with all these kids from Cal State Fullerton, and I said something like, and they're like, Troy, you had a cord in your phone at one time. I was like, yes, I had a cord in my phone at one time. That's how old I am now. So, but the walking thing has been huge. Trying to keep all this going.
It's big.
And discovering myself. So what are some of the other things you've added to you? You've discovered how you work that made you super productive and made you to keep running this company at a really high level where you have time to do this.
Right.
I mean, this is the fact you have time to produce a book and catch this, one of the top coaches in the country, if not the world right now, Marshall Goldsmith is one of the endorsers of you, which is a huge, huge deal to get. Like, I mean, like for a guy like Marshall Goldsmith, that's on one of the endorsers on this book, to endorse you, Chris, is a absolutely big deal because he's got so many books. He works with the top CEOs, like of the top Fortune 500 companies. Like, this is as elite in CEO coaching and entrepreneurial coaching as you're going to possibly get, and someone that's like a true mind. He spent his entire life saying, how do I make this human be the most effective leader they possibly can be? And that's pretty much Marshall Goldsmith.
Right.
I mean, he's amazing. His book
amazing.
Triggers is fantastic. I mean, all his other books, like he's brilliant. So how in the world did you actually, let's go to Marshall real quick.
Yeah.
How did you connect with Marshall? Like, I mean, that's.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough, so I was at a conference. I'm trying to remember the name of the conference. We were in Vail, Colorado, and he was there speaking. And so I learned this trick early on that if I was at a conference and I saw someone or met someone who I thought, geez, they're smarter than me, they're more successful than me, they have something to offer, right? They have something to teach me. I need to get them away from everyone. I need to try to get 5 minutes with them.
Yeah.
And so I'll go up. I learned this from Tim Ferriss. Just start asking these people. Just ask for it, right? You'll be surprised how many times they say yes. I went up to him and said, hey, can I just steal? I said 5 minutes. I promise I'll set a timer. I'll set a timer. I just want 5
Brilliant.
minutes, right? And I did it. And I started a timer and I had 5 minutes with them. And after 5 minutes, then he invited me to come to his house and do a walk with him. So we became
Wow.
walking, right?
I love it.
And I did a walk with him on a Sunday.
Peripatetic.
Yeah.
Aristotelian. What do they call it? Aristotelian, right?
Yeah. And so I got to know him and learn from him and continue to learn from him. And then I had him on my radio show a few
Did
times.
you fly to him or?
No, he's in the San Diego County area.
He's in San Diego. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. So I really sat down with him, worked through some stuff, had him on my radio show, and he came up with this concept called feed forward that I have taken on, and it is one of the best things I've learned from him. And that is, we typically talk about feedback in our organizations. If you think about feedback, it's inherently negative.
Correct.
You can't change what happened in the past. If I come to you and say, you're a real jerk in that meeting we just had, what's going on, man? And you should get defensive,
Yeah.
right? Even if you weren't a jerk, you're gonna get defensive.
Yeah.
And so, but we can't go back and undo that thing. But if I come to you and give feed forward, hey, next time we have a meeting, can you bring it down a notch?
Yeah.
Can you make sure other people have a chance to talk?
Yeah.
Can you be less aggressive about your ideas?
Feed forward.
It's feed forward,
I love
right?
this, man. Like.
And
yes.
99.999% of the time, people go, "Oh yeah, I can do that. Of course I can," because it's in the future, and you're not asking them to defend their past behaviors. You're not asking them to change the past, right? And it's presented in a way. And I've literally said to people, "Hey, in the next meeting, can you not be a jerk?" And they're like, "Yeah, I can do that." But if I said,
Yeah,
"Hey,
brilliant.
why were you a jerk in the last meeting?" They're
Yeah.
like, "Screw you! I wasn't
Yeah.
a jerk." They
Yeah,
get all
yeah.
puffy and all that. It's just the way we say it.
Feed
So
forward. That's brilliant.
Right, so I learned that from Marshall, and it radically changed. So
Brilliant.
So we get in our meetings, and we'll often pair off. If we do some meetings together, even though most of our meetings are remote, and we will say, "What does everyone need from everybody?" We give our feed forward. Hey guys, I really need help here. I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I need everyone to listen to this. I think
Yeah.
I found this important information. Or what I really need from everyone is to make this meeting quick because I got
Yeah.
a deadline. I cannot be late. I got 30 minutes to give you and I got to be off, right? So this meeting needs to be tight. And so everyone gives what they need, and now you eliminate all the passive aggressive energy. You eliminate all of the weirdness. Like, why is this person moving so fast? Why are they so antsy? Well, because they have a deadline. Now
Yeah.
you know what's happening, right?
Yeah.
So the little things that we can learn. That's what I love. And it sounds like it's what you love too, right? What's this little things I can learn from really smart people and go back and institutionalize and socialize inside of my organizations, inside my life, inside my family, and make things better.
So when Marshall worked with you, are you one of his 200?
No, I've never done anything on that with him as far as his direct coaching because
He's got like the 100 he's doing for
Yeah.
free, and then he's got the 200.
He's got the 200, yeah, he's
And he's
done all
like
that.
Dave Meltzer's one of those guys, and
yeah.
like.
So I do consulting. I like to go in and help entrepreneurs like myself. I like to help teams and people and go in and do that. But I only have a limited amount of time. I'm running a regular business, right?
Yeah, it's
so
tough.
I have hours in the month that I will work with companies and
Yeah.
consult and do things.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to do that. But it is not my full-time job to be
Yeah,
a
yeah.
coach,
Yeah.
right? And so I've never gone down that path with Marshall because I'm not a
So Marshall just
Right.
did this out of like, did you hire him or did you?
no, just
He just mentored you.
yeah. I
Dude,
mean,
he is like the mentor of mentors right now.
Right, right.
He really is.
But
mean, like,
remember,
it's amazing.
I kept it to a very brief,
Yeah.
specific amount of time, and I
Yeah.
was very, very cognizant and very respectful of his
Yeah.
time. And so therefore, he was
amazing.
willing to give me some of his time.
Correct.
People come in and they're like, I'm just going to suck the air out of the room and try to get as much from someone as they can, and you'll notice the barriers go
The
up.
barriers go up very
Right?
rapidly. Yeah.
And if you're like, hey, he invited me to come do a walk, cool, we're going to do a walk, and when that walk's done,
Go home.
go home.
Yeah.
Even though I had 1,000 more questions,
Yeah.
I go home.
Yeah.
Because you need to be respectful. You imagine how many people are trying to get at him, or anybody else you're trying to learn
Correct.
from. So that I learned that lesson early on, to be respectful of people's time, and there is a start and an end time to things, and that's
Yeah.
it. And you can ask for another one later on, right? But if you do that, you'll notice the most successful people.
So let me ask you
will
this
bring you
then.
back.
After having this experience with him, how has that impacted you in not feed forward, but almost pay forward mentality now, out of curiosity? Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like to have someone at that level to pour into you, like I feel compelled to do a lot of things because I found a lot of mentors that poured into me at a young age that I sought out or asked, same thing, and
Right.
and didn't find the right people at the right time either. So I'm also motivated because I didn't have the right answers or the right people at the right time, and
Right.
so now I'm more motivated to try to give as much as I can to as many people to share where I screwed my life up, right?
Right.
So have him spend all this time in you, like, what's next for you? Like, what do you see now? This vision of like.
So
Where are you going
we
with all
try
this, Chris?
to repurpose the things that we've learned and talk about. I do that on my podcast, Talent Talk, and that's our way to formally say, here's what we're learning, here's what we know. We talk to people, and so that's a more organized way we do it.
Yeah.
On a personal level, I try to give back as much as I can. So anytime someone connects with me on LinkedIn, I like to send a little note and say, hey, thanks for connecting. Here's more about me, and I give a link. If you want to have a call, let's have a call. I'll have a call with anybody for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? I have time booked on my calendar.
Are
for
you really
stuff.
that organized? You use Calendly or?
Yeah, well, I have one like that, but yeah.
What's it called?
I use Schedule once, but it's
Okay,
just same
got it.
thing.
Yeah.
And so it's integrated with Zoom, and so I can
That's
have,
brilliant.
and then I have times blocked off, so when
Yeah.
people go in, they're going to grab a time that's usually good for me, and I will have that call with them,
Wow.
right? And they can add whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah.
They may want to talk about their business, they might want to talk about culture, whatever they want to talk about, and then at the end of that. Right before we end up, now if it's a 30-minute call, it ends at 30 minutes. I don't
Yeah.
go over
No.
because I can't give up that extra time.
Correct.
But I try to tell that person what the next thing is. I try to, hey, it looks like we should talk more. There may be things we can do together, business we can have together, whatever. Or, hey, the next thing you need to do is you need to go find this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not your person.
Correct.
We had a call, we had a conversation. I'm
Correct.
not your person
Yeah.
ongoing, right?
Yeah.
Set the expectation.
That's awesome, Chris.
Yeah.
That inspires me because I'm working on my own schedule to get that dialed in, even with like all the LinkedIn. I'm like, and I love these calls because I've met some of the most amazing people just
Yeah.
randomly connecting on Instagram lately and Facebook and doing some of this marketing or
Right.
whatever we're doing, just creating all this content and giving it to the world of what inspired me, the people that inspired me, or the friends. We got a rope here. We might need someone to fix real quick before it smacks him in the head.
There we go.
But
I thought it was a bird that hit
no,
me.
yeah, he's flying by. Like the universe is like slapping you around. But like, literally, I love these calls. Like the people you meet are amazing. There's so many people doing amazing things, and the fact we can share information, encourage, and be encouraged by each other is pretty amazing. So,
Right.
so you love doing this. So the next part of your life is probably focusing a little bit more on spreading these messages, you think? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I love going in and helping. There's a couple of things I like to do the most when I'm not running my traditional
Yeah.
business. I love going in and helping CEOs or the leaders in the organization design their next culture.
Yeah.
Because the culture you have today may not be the right culture for as you grow.
Yeah.
Right. There's some natural changes as you get a certain amount of employees, your revenue size, all of that. Right. Helping design that is really
So
important.
what size companies are you working with when you're designing culture? Like, is it the 0 to 25, 25 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 250?
It's all over the map, but I would say the most important time to look at it is between 100 and 200 employees.
Yeah.
Because at 125, there is this, well-documented, complete screwing up of everything once you get to be over 125
like the book
employees.
Tribes.
Right, because you can't remember that many people's names.
Yep.
You have to change the way you interact. So I find that's where most people call me, is when they're in that weird 100
So if
to
you're
200.
about 75, 80 employees, you start prepping now.
Start prepping now.
for
But
the
I've had
next,
people,
for the 125, the
Yeah.
250 range.
But I've had companies that are going from 5 to 25 or 25 to 100. I mean, it's all important. And then whenever they feel like it's important, that's a good time to reach out.
Yeah.
But I notice that is the time that's the hardest for people. It's from 100 to 200.
So what point should you start? 50, 75, really architecting for the next? Because each culture, I feel like culture changes
Yeah.
between 5, between 20, between 50, between 75 and 100. Like it keeps evolving. Like for some
You
reason.
should be
like,
architecting right now. And whether or not you need to bring in someone to help you really will depend on how quickly are you going to go from 75 to 100. Is that going to happen in a month, or is that going to happen in a year?
Correct.
What's your plan? Where do you think how that's going to happen? So it does have some
So what would be
impact
the
on it.
rule? Like Vern Harnish, the author of Scaling Up and Mastering the Rockefeller Habit, says if your company is growing at like 10% a year, you do a yearly planning session, you're pretty good. If your company's growing at 100% a year, you need to be doing a monthly planning session
Right.
for 2 or 3 days, literally getting clear every single month for 2 or
Every
3
month.
days.
Right.
If you're growing at 100% a year. So what would be the rule, do you think, if you could come up with one like that right now, what would be the rule for culture planning?
Right. If you keep hiring people to the point that you don't really remember when you hired that person, like suddenly you're seeing faces popping up all the time, and as the leader, you're like, wait, who's that person again? You're not planning enough, right? I like to kind of think about things more abstractly as opposed to some metric. But if like you start noticing these things, that's a problem, right?
Like what's your name?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've had that happen like in different phases where we like went down, we let a bunch of people go, and then all of a sudden we're growing back up again. We're getting super busy, and they start adding a ton of people, and you're like, God, what's their person's name? Who are you?
Right.
Do you work here? Like,
right.
And we're not a big company. We're only like probably 70, 75, like 65 to 80 people at any given moment, basically.
Yeah.
So it's not even that big of a company. It's like, but all of a sudden like, oh, the claims department hired someone, and they're like, oh yeah, I've been working here 2 weeks. I'm like, and I've been on the road traveling, doing sales, working in marketing or whatever it is, and they need like.
So one of the things I do is every one of my employees that gets hired, I may not be, it depends on where they are, I may not ever have a conversation with them. Some employees I do and some I don't. Some get hired because someone else has the authority, we've said we need, that's fine. But I have a call with them in the first 2 days of them working, unless I'm on vacation or some.
Who runs and makes sure is all that like with that many people coming and going, like we have to ramp up for giant projects, we have to ramp down.
As soon as I know someone's getting in, I reach out to that person.
Do you have an HR director that tells you someone's being hired, or?
Well, we have that process.
You have 3,000 employees.
But I notice on Slack, we have a new person. That's not, my cheat. On Slack, it says there's a new person that's come in, right? And I go, boom, hey, we need to have a call.
I was wondering what the antecedent would be. Like, you know what I mean?
For me, it's Slack, because that's
easy. With 3,000 employees, I'm blown away, like, how you even do that. Like, that blows my mind.
And so we have an hour long, and I may group it. There may be multiple people that do it. But I have a call and say, here is, for 1 hour, I do our culture.
That's
Because that's that important to me. They need to know.
And what do you do? Like, when you're on that hour, what are you doing?
I review a lot of things in the book, right? What are our big things we focus on? How do we operate? So we have a lot of really cool meeting types.
Yeah.
So being a completely remote organization, one of the challenges we have is it's really easy for someone to pick up the phone and call you and say, here's what I've been thinking, let's have a conversation, hang up, call the next person, let's have a conversation. And they do that around the organization. They spent all afternoon doing it. And then they come back to you, right? And they have, okay, here's what I learned, and have another conversation. It's a complete waste of time.
Yes.
And you could just die.
Right.
Your organization would die before you figure anything out. So we changed all of that. We don't have one-on-ones unless it's intentional, like a manager doing reviews and things like that. Everything is teams, everything is groups. So it's very the Scrum model, right?
Yeah.
And so we get together, and so we have a couple fun meeting types. First one is called a cockroach meeting. If you have a cockroach in your bathroom, it's a small problem, right? You may not want to be the one who cleans it up, but it's a small problem. So anyone in the organization can call
it a cockroach meeting
at any time.
That's
and so
awesome.
they throw it, they ping it in Slack, or maybe they send an email out. Hey guys, 1 o'clock, I have a problem with, I can't figure out this thing in Excel.
Yeah.
Or I have a client asking me for something I don't understand. Who can help me? And so you might ask, it's 5 to 7 people max, right? It's a small group. You get everyone on the phone at the same time. Here's my problem. Oh, you should do this, you should do that, you should talk to this person. And now you get all this information. The meetings cannot be any longer than 15 minutes. Yeah. We also have a goal to always end meetings early in our organization. So the average cockroach meeting is 7 minutes. So in 7 minutes, you've gotten the opinion of 5 to 7 people on what you should do, how you should proceed, and you are immediately
Now they call
gone.
this randomly out of nowhere. Like, guys, I need a cockroach meeting. Everyone hop on for 5 to 7 minutes.
They might give an hour notice. They might give half a day notice.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is, right? But there's it's in the flow of that day.
Yeah.
So we've tracked. There's an average of like 30 to 40 cockroach meetings happening every day in our organization, right? There's these little meetings. And so but they get what they need very quickly, and they can make a decision very quickly. Again, and they don't necessarily need a manager to say, this is what you should do. You have a really team of smart people who understand what's happening, and they're off, they're gone. Then we have other meetings. So we have an ostrich meeting.
Ostrich meeting.
Right. So which is, I got my head in the sand. I don't know how to do. I don't know what I don't know.
I love that you titled these things.
Right.
Chris.
I just need help.
Like, this is brilliant.
Right.
Like, this is absolutely brilliant.
Right.
I love it.
So I don't need you to solve my problem. I need you to give me information.
Yeah.
Right? How do I do this thing? And so it might be a different set of people that might show up to that meeting. Again, and it's completely optional for anyone you've invited, anyone you've asked. It's totally optional for them to show up.
Yeah.
The only one that's mandatory to show up for is the one who called it.
Yeah.
Right? So no one has any pressure. If they have a deadline, you're not forcing people to show up and have to like give you their time. So those happen all the time. The next one is a tiger team meeting. So if you have a tiger in your bathroom, it's a big problem. Can you imagine what you'd have to do to get a
Yes.
tiger out of your bathroom?
We've seen this on the movies.
You see this in the movie,
Yes.
but you might need animal control, a dart gun.
Yes.
If you're on the second floor, you might need a crane to get it out. I mean, you're gonna need a lot of prep.
Yes.
And so managers typically call tiger team meetings. They tend to be an hour to 2 hours
I
long.
can just see the marketing in my mind of how to market this scene, for the hangover.
Right,
Like,
exactly,
100%.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
awesome. Keep
Right.
going.
So then people know they had better do prep work.
Yeah.
They had better prepare.
Yeah.
And they're going to show up to a big meeting about a big thing.
Yeah.
Right? And it changes the dynamic. So it's not a quick meeting. I know I'm
Yeah.
showing up for a big deal.
Yeah.
And I better be ready. And the last one that we love to call is the tsunami planning meeting. And tsunami planning is more to
Sounds like a disaster just fucking hit. Sorry to cuss. Sorry. But like when I think of tsunami, I'm thinking, oh man, like everything's destroyed.
so that meeting is what would happen if.
Yeah.
So go back and ask your team. If you're the CEO, you're the leader, go back and ask your leadership team. Just start with them. What would happen if I died today?
Yeah.
And watch.
They'd be like, okay, Troy's out of our hair.
Right.
Probably.
But
No,
can someone else sign the paychecks? Can someone else get into the credit cards? Will our insurance still be valid?
Yeah.
Well, all of these things.
So we're religious about planning like these things, my brother and I, and so it's kind of actually around the whole company. We have like multiple levels of audit, multiple levels of backup,
Right.
There's signature stamps on one person, but a couple of people have it. There's like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like all the
most
paperwork
organizations
and like,
don't.
We're like, boom, boom, boom. Like, I don't know, I think we grew up with my dad, and I'm like, who was very much like super, like prepper, planner, like took us for survival courses with these kids.
Right.
Like, so our minds are like,
But you could also
Yeah.
flip it. What would happen if the biggest client? What happens
Oh, yeah.
if we got the $1 million
we had to
deal or
raise
whatever?
100 people or
Right.
hire
How do you
500
hire
people.
100 people quickly? What would you do?
Ramp up.
And you actually can create that plan.
Contingency plan.
Contingency
start
plan,
managing
right?
budget.
Have the recruiting company on standby, ready
Yeah.
to go. Right. Have all these things in place.
Correct.
And that's cool and that's fun, but the best part of it is when you ask people to think creatively and to think about these imaginary problems or imaginary good scenarios, they can practice brainstorming, practice idea making in a safe setting that's not for real.
Correct.
And they get really good at it. So when you actually ask them to do that, if you ever
So how do you prioritize these meetings out of curiosity? Because there's only like, I could come up with a list even for your company right now of 100 things maybe you have to do Tsunami meetings on or something, right?
we just ask, I throw them out there. I do one a month with my leadership team.
Got it. One a month.
My leaders tend to do one a month.
Curious how do you actually really
and it's a little loosey-goosey.
shove it in there? Like there's
Yeah.
so much always going on in companies. It's like,
Yeah.
like there's all these amazing ideas, but how do people actually actually do it? Like and
Right.
actually insert it into
Right.
their companies.
Another
you know?
fun thing to do is to actually give them a fake problem to think about first in the meeting, and then say, and do it for 15 minutes, and then say, cool, now guess what, I do have a real problem now.
Yeah.
And now let's talk about that, because you've gotten their brains thinking creatively, exercising, this is a safe place, no one's gonna call me an idiot if I have this crazy idea
Yeah.
or whatever, right? You set the stage. And so it's just a good exercise because people don't actually practice.
Yeah.
So there's a great book David Marquet wrote called Turn the Ship Around. And he actually...
And he's one of the people that actually promoted you, by the way.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he had him on the radio show. He's a fantastic guy.
He's huge.
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 And so he was inside of a submarine, right? He's the
Yeah.
captain of a submarine ship. And here he is in this military organization where if you tell someone to do something, it's command and control, right? Take the submarine down.
Correct.
Person
100%.
say, yep, you're the captain, I'll take it down.
Dive.
But someone should say, there's a rock below us, Captain. I don't think someone should be able to say, I don't think that's a good idea. And he noticed that his staff wasn't good at that.
Yeah.
So he started intentionally practicing. He'd bring them in and have them practice telling him fake bad news.
Yeah.
And people had a really hard time. I've had that with my staff. Hey, just pretend you have to tell me we just lost our best client.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they can't do it because they've never thought about it, right?
Yeah.
And so you'll notice people will avoid bad news. They'll avoid telling you what you need to hear.
See, I love
Never
that.
practice
Like,
it.
okay, that's what I love about you, Chris. Like, I'm just meeting Chris today, really for the first time, like literally. So you just start, you know that you know inside of you, like when you spend enough time with enough entrepreneurs, like those who actually really give a crap, like, and like it just comes out of you, like all the books you've read, all the things you've studied, like all the pain you've had, like you've digested it inside of you.
Right.
Because right now it is just like a wellspring right now of like all this stuff coming up, and you can just feel like it's.
Yeah.
I mean, like what we're learning today from this person is amazing. Like this is amazing content for entrepreneurs or anybody that really wants to run their organizations at a whole nother level. So when did you work with him or something, or did you hire him, or you just read his book, or had him on your podcast?
I read his book,
or?
did his workbook, we started digesting his things,
Yeah.
and I immediately said, hey, I got to get this guy on my radio show.
Yeah.
And I've had him on a couple times, and just from those small interactions, learning from him, right, has just been amazing.
That's so rad.
He does a lot of stuff. He's connected with Simon Sinek. I haven't been able to
Simon's
bridge the getting to Simon Sinek
Yeah.
thing, but he's really, really good. I think, again, you talked about someone who's lived it, right? This guy took the worst performing submarine in the entire fleet, right, and made it the top performing one by changing the entire way he did his leadership, right? By taking these lessons and taking a new approach and not trying to go in and just muscle it, right? What's a different way I can do this?
I love that he did that. Do you know Mark Kohler by any chance? Lead with Purpose.
Okay, yeah.
He's down in Encinitas area or whatever. He was the same thing, a submarine captain.
Okay.
We actually brought him into our organization for a year, working about 25 hours a week, just to get daily huddles, weekly meetings, quarterly planning, and the execution of that to really stuff in that concept. So we, again, constantly bringing in outside people to shove new ideas into the organization, and then either people love it or hate it, but but then they sooner or later they embrace it, because it's one thing to just read the book, it's another thing to actually try to really figure out how do you digest and apply it to your life. The simple thing, my only goal every day is just go walking 2 miles a day. Right. And my life's really good. As soon as I get off a course, I go off course quickly. All of a sudden what happens is I do the walk and the veggie drink. Those are two of the most important things, right? And if I don't do it, I'm doing good for about 1, 2, 3 days, but by day 4, my life starts going shoo, all randomly, trying to find those simple disciplines in an organization that just keep you on track.
Right.
I love the walking thing. It keeps me energetic. It keeps me healthy. Then I do my supplements, and then I drink more water, and I'm drinking less coffee, and I'm more energized, and I feel better about myself, and I look better if I'm more consistent.
Right.
And these little daily habits within an organization, the cockroach meeting, the ostrich meetings, the tsunami meetings, creating these things inside of a culture and applying it, you can feel it come out of you. And when you do that, it really does change the way companies operate. Little things really end up doing, daily huddles was a big thing for us.
Right.
Getting people to have conversations and not assume, we did Crucial Conversations. We do it every year now. And just that one book was a huge breakthrough for the company, where people really own it and they're not assuming anymore. You know what I mean? It's that's why these things are so powerful. So, Chris, I think we've been on for a while. I'm looking at this. We probably should stop and end the show for today. But man, seriously, I'm super grateful.
I'm grateful for being here and the chance to talk about this. And whenever we do it again, I'll be here. Okay, I hope to have you, man.
All right, thank you.
Folks, thank you very much for watching the Fireside Chats. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and go to our website. Download some of the podcasts we had going. Please go check out Chris. We'll have a bunch of information below and little links you can do to buy the book, to find what other courses he's offering, and learn more about him and his company. So folks, thank you, and we'll see you next time on the Fireside Chats.